Hey guys, I'm back. Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be an updated orchid collection tour. I'm actually going to break this up into 3 different videos. I'm going to take one section of my grow space and talk about it in each video. I actually did that the last time around when I posted an orchid collection tour, and I feel like it worked out perfectly. That way I don't feel like I have to rush through anything. I don't feel like the videos are going to be too long or anything, so it just works out better that way. So I hope that's all right with you guys. I'm really proud of my collection and my setup in general. I've picked up so many cool new plants recently, and everything's just going really well, and I'm so proud to show it off to you guys. It really means the world that you guys are taking the time to watch my videos. I really appreciate it. I love that you guys are enjoying what I'm doing here, so thank you so much for that. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It really helps me out a lot, so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Without further ado though, let's get started. Alright guys, let's jump into this. Usually I start over on my grow shelves and work my way out from there, but I wanted to do things a little bit differently today and start with my windowsill plants because I have some really awesome stuff over here that I can't wait to talk about. Up first is my Miltoniopsis Pink Lemonade. Let's give you guys like a close look at the blooms. It is such a beautiful Miltoniopsis. I don't even know what to say about this plant. It's just everything about it is wonderful. The blooms are beautiful. That waterfall pattern on the lip is so stunning. They're very, very fragrant. It's got kind of a classic Miltoniopsis smell, which I find to be kind of a rosy smell. I think it has a bit more of like a citrusy note to it though. And it's actually a pretty strong fragrance. It kind of fills up my whole room in the morning. But yeah, I love everything about it. It's got at least a dozen blooms on it. It's very green and leafy as well, which I love. If you don't love the way an orchid looks when it doesn't have flowers, you're not going to have a good time. So I always look for orchids that are very leafy and green. That's one of my favorite things. I actually really look forward to cutting off flower spikes and kind of seeing what the plant looks like on its own without blooms. It's one of my favorite things, and this plant just has really awesome foliage. So I'm very happy to have this. Look at that. I never get tired of looking at it. It's so gorgeous. I could talk about it all day, but let's move on to another kind of new addition. This is Cymbidium. It's called Butterball. It's very cute, small. That's one thing I like about it. It's a bit of a more compact Cymbidium. And yeah, the flowers are just a nice kind of dark yellow with some kind of like burgundy markings on the lip and really nice kind of flares on the tips of the petals. It's very, very pretty. Interesting though, the flowers seem to remain sort of cupped. I'm not sure if they open up and get flatter, but most of the pictures I've seen, they all seem to have that sort of partially closed appearance of the flowers, which I don't mind. I think it gives it kind of a cute look, but it's just something interesting to note. Very pretty. I have to do some research into this particular type because I know a lot of Cymbidiums need a pretty cool, not winter arrest per se, but they're temperature sensitive and they do need a dip of temperature to set buds. But some of them are more spring and summer blooming, and I think some of these smaller varieties are more of the ones that don't need it as cold. They're a bit warmer growing, so I'll have to look into that. If you know anything about this Cymbidium, let me know it down below. Let's see. Here is my Miltonia Sunset, still going pretty strong. It's got a second spike coming in there, if you can see that kind of in the back. It's pretty small though. It only looks like it has like 1 or 2 buds on it, but I don't know, maybe they develop further as it grows. But that's alright. I wasn't even expecting that other spike, so it's just, you know, a bonus. I don't really care if it has another big bloom display or not, because I'm kind of just looking forward to repotting this plant and cutting the spike and cleaning it up and all that. So I'm not gonna be too bummed out if that spike doesn't do much. Let's see. In the back here, sorry the lighting's a little crazy in the window here. Just bear with me. This is, what's it called? It's the Shelob token one. I don't know if it's like Brassia or Brassidium or something, I forget. It's not doing a whole lot. It's got some new growths and stuff. It had a bit of a rough time after I repotted it, so it's in a bit of a transition period, but it's doing okay. This here is one of my big Dendrobium nobiles. It looks really great. It's got tons of new growths. I really ought to stick it outside or something. It could definitely use some brighter light, but it's doing all right. There is another Dendrobium. I don't know the proper name. It's some type of either like spatulata or antinatum. It's got kind of long spirally lateral petals. Not very long and spirally. It's like one of the hybrids. But it's very cool, very cute. It's got some new growths. It's doing well. Could also use some more stronger light. Let's see if my camera will adjust here. There we go. Here is a big, beautiful no ID foul that I bought at some big box store. Well, I actually didn't buy it. It was kind of a rescue. I have it in semi-hydro, actually. That's what I usually use semi-hydro for, is like recoveries. And this one was in kind of bad shape when it found me, so I put it in semi-hydro, and it seems to like it. Maybe eventually I'll pot it up in bark. I don't usually use semi-hydro long term. I don't have anything against it, and it, you know, seems to work fine, and obviously this fowl loves it. But it's just not, I'm more comfortable with bark. It's not something I like to use in the long term. But this thing is just gorgeous. The flowers are enormous. They'll probably last a long time. And the colors are really pretty. They seem to kind of change too. They start out kind of like white with the speckles, and then as time goes on, the white kind of turns more pink and they get kind of more like blushing. Very pretty. Very long spike. I love the way orchid flowers hang. I don't really stake things very often if I can avoid it. This one's in semi-hydro as well, so it would have been difficult to stake, but yeah, I love like a pendulous inflorescence. Back there is a Miltonia. I don't feel like grabbing the tag right now. It's very pretty. It almost has like a Miltoniopsis look, but it is a Miltonia, I believe. And it definitely looks more like a Miltonia. The flowers aren't as round and flat as a Miltoniopsis. You can definitely see that it's a Miltonia, but it reminds me of some of those. It's got like a really pale kind of like soft yellow, kind of champagne colored bloom to it. You've probably seen similar ones. It's doing really well. It's got several new growths in the back. I'm thinking about repotting it soon. We'll see. But I do love it. Let's see. Here is my Zygonesia bluebirds. This is a first time rebloom for me. I've had this for about a year and I love it. The flowers are gorgeous. They're on the way out right now. It looked better about a week or so ago, but the flowers have been pretty long lasting. They're just not in the best shape right now. I posted some photos of the flowers when they were fresh and looking nice, and they're actually quite blue. Don't get mad at me. I know it's not actually blue. I'm just saying that they're quite blue considering that it's an orchid flower and they're never blue. So I'm just saying it's bluish, and I was impressed by kind of the bluishness of it. It doesn't really look that way now. It was primarily in the lip where I saw a very bluish purple. It was really, really beautiful. I love this thing. Also needs a repot. The foliage is not great looking on them, but that's kind of standard of Zygos. the leaves can look kind of rough. Well-grown ones can have really nice lush-looking leaves, so it's possible to have a good-looking plant. It's common for the leaves to look a little rough. Let's see. That is a no ID Zygopetalum. I think it's like Louisendorf or Rain Moonlight. It's one of those ones, one of the common ones that you see in stores. It's got some new growths. It's not doing much. It hasn't bloomed for me in a while. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. I wasn't doing the best job at giving it good light. Zygos, in my experience, need kind of brighter light than you might guess. So I'm going to try to give it better light. But it's doing fine. It's still growing, putting out new growths and stuff. Here is a no ID phal that I bought as like a rescue. I think I got it from some discount table for $1. I just liked the foliage on it, and it was about to be thrown in the trash, so I figured I'd take it. It's not the most exciting phal. It's a pretty boring color, but I don't really have many orchids that are yellow. The color on camera isn't quite showing up right. It's a very kind of like greenish yellow, which is actually pretty interesting, and I do like it. It has a nice kind of contrast with the rest of my plants. It looks nice against the green of the foliage. They're very pretty. I probably wouldn't have bought it for like a full price. I just grabbed it because it cost basically nothing, and it's cute. It's doing well. Now back here, that is my, what's it called, Dendrobium firewings. Doing very well. I finally cut one of the spikes off. The flowers last forever, but they were starting to look kind of rough. I love how green this plant is. It has so much foliage. It's got 2 or 3 nice new growths coming in the bottom. It's freshly repotted. It's looking great. It's pretty pleased with me, I think. They're very easy growing anyway. But yeah, so that's everything on this little table. Let me jump over to the other window. Here's a zygo with very nice foliage. A lot of zygos can look a little rough. Their leaves don't always hold up very well, but this one's got gorgeous foliage. It's actually a zygonesia of some kind. I bought it at a grocery store as kind of like a no ID. I think I was able to track down the ID once, but I keep forgetting it and I haven't made a tag. It's kind of similar to the bluebirds. Whenever people post pictures of this one and they're asking for the ID, a lot of people jump in and comment and say it's a bluebirds because it does look a bit like it, but it's not. It's not the bluebirds. The leaves are huge. They're like a couple feet tall. I really love kind of like the sword-shaped leaves. They're very, very broad and tall. Awesome foliage. And actually the fragrance on this thing is one of my favorite orchid fragrances of all time. You know those big white or pink lilies that you see come out like around Easter time, and they have like a very powerful sweet fragrance? I actually don't love that fragrance because I think it's a bit too much, like it's too sweet. But this orchid smells like that, but like a better version of that fragrance where it's not as sickly sweet, but it's got like a similar quality to it. So if you like that fragrance, you would love this. I love this fragrance so much. It's really wonderful. This plant's doing very well too. It's got some nice new growths coming in down there. Again, I apologize for the lighting being kind of weird. That's another little Zygopetalum. That's one of the ones that's either called like something Australia or like Jumping Jack. It's one of those ones. It's very nice, very cute. It's got a new growth coming in that I think is going to flower. So hopefully that one does well for me. I'm not going to pull it out because there's not really too much to see. Sorry, it's not the best view at these guys. These two are a couple like no ID den phals that I bought from like a discount table as well. They had blooms on them when I bought them, so I got to kind of see what the flowers would look like, and they were really cool. So I only paid a couple bucks each on those, so I'm happy to have those. They got some new growths coming in. This here is another Zygopetalum. I think this one is also the Rain Moonlight Louisendorf one, whatever it is. Whatever the standard Zygopetalum is that you see most commonly available, it's one of those. So I have two of them. Because the other one I have wasn't doing that well, I just bought a second one. I do really love Zygopetalum, so I don't mind having two. This one's doing a little better than the other one. It's got some pretty good looking new growths in there. This here is a No ID Den Nobly. I also kind of bought this from a big box store as a bit of like a rescue. It had some flowers on it when I bought it, and I did really love the flowers. They're kind of like a pink standard looking kind of Den Nobly, but it's not in the best shape. It's kind of re-rooting. It's putting out a bunch of nice new roots, so I'm hoping that's a sign that it'll do well and put out some new growths or something, because it's not looking great. This cane here in the back kind of has like some browning and stuff on it. I might have to cut that off, but we'll see how it does. I do love Den Nobly, so hopefully I can recover it. This is a Miltonia. The tag says MILT, which I believe is the abbreviation for Miltonia. Miltoniopsis has like the PS, I think, at the end. But this one's blooms look a bit more like a Miltoniopsis than a Miltonia. So, I don't know. It's called like Hajime Ono, I think. It's very pretty. It's got kind of like that waterfall pattern on it like a Miltoniopsis does, but I know Miltonias and Miltoniopsis can have similar looking flowers, but I just thought it was interesting because it does kind of look a lot like a Miltoniopsis in my opinion. It's doing well. It's got some good looking new growths coming in. I did sunburn it a touch, if you can see that. There's some spots, but it doesn't seem to have hurt it too bad. It's doing fine. Over here is kind of my corner where I've got some ones that aren't doing very well. Like this was a back bulb that came off one of my Zygopetalums, and it's doing fine. It's in semi-hydro. It's got some new growth on it. But these two were ones that had spider mites that I segregated. So these are just some orchids that I don't want to put with my other ones, but I want to hold on to and try to recover. So this is kind of like the hospital wing of my collection right now. This one here had the worst case of spider mites I've ever seen. Usually I always catch the spider mites before the point where it's like they're covered in webbing, but this was the first time I actually had an orchid covered in webbing. It was terrifying. I've had spider mites plenty of times before, and I know how to deal with them. They're not a huge deal to me. I just take care of it. It's just a problem that happens, and you just treat it and move on. But this was the first time. This one was kind of like in the back of my collection. I just didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. And then one day I noticed, and it was just covered in spider mites. Maybe I'll do a video about spider mites in the future. It's been cured of the mites, but I'm just keeping it separate for now, just in case. It's throwing out a bunch of new growth, so it needs to be cleaned up. I might just divide it and cut off all this kind of back half and just have a small plant with new growths on it. We'll see. But I guess that's it for right now. This is kind of my whole corner as far as like windowsill growing. And then I have, of course, my grow shelves, which is kind of where I keep all my highlight and cattleyas and stuff. But yeah, I thought I'd start out with this today and then move on to the rest of my collection in the next video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.